So we got a little unplanned trip taking place here. Let me get you caught up on what's going on. I started buying real estate when I was 19. Bought my first house when I was 19. I bought the second one when I was 21. I sold that first house quite a few years ago. And it was in Virginia where I had worked after high school. For about 3 or 4 years, I bought those two houses while I was down there working in Charlottesville, Virginia. There was a lot going on there. And I'd went down there with my high school girlfriend looking for work. I ended up staying down there, and she decided to come back and go to college. Well, that second house I bought that I've kept, it's actually in downtown Charlottesville in an area called Belmont. And I bought it in the summer of 1996. And just the way things ended up happening, I moved back home to West Virginia in the first month of 97. And at that point, I had that house rented out, and the house was being managed by a property management lady that was doing a fabulous job taking care of that place. And that property management lady has done a great job taking care of that place now for 26 years. Within the last year, I decided to sell that property. And that property management lady's daughter is a realtor. So I listed it with her. And pretty quickly, she had 3 offers for us on that house. We accepted one of the offers, and it wasn't the highest offer. We accepted the offer that we thought was most guaranteed to be the best deal to sell it quick at a good price. And I had discussed with that realtor then about how I've always noticed that these closings never take place when they're supposed to. There's always a delay. There's always an issue with financing, and the financing always causes a delay. And she said the same thing everybody else says. She said, well, this seller's approved. I said, well, that's, in my experience, that's very rarely the problem. Generally, the delay comes because the appraiser tells the finance company that something is up with the house. It's the property that generally causes the delay. Not necessarily a pre-approved seller. It's the property. So, fast forward to now. This house was supposed to close on September 6th. It's September 4th, and the appraiser has gone into this place, and they found a puddle of water in the basement. And evidently, above that puddle of water, there's some mold. And although the property has totally approved for financing for the amount in question, and if you see this property, it's obviously what I call a gut job. It has 50-year-old paneling in it. The doors are falling off the cabinets. It's the kind of place that if a feller wanted to go in there and remodel, boy, you could raise the value of that a lot. And Charlottesville is a good place to raise the value of a property because there's people there that's got money and they'll buy it. So there's no way, according to this finance company, There's no way that this can close, and there's no way that they'll loan the money to this person that wants to buy it until that mold issue is dealt with by a mold remediation company. And I'm realizing that there's absolutely no way this is going to close this week. I would venture to say that mold remediation company, it's going to take them, if they just found out about this or just priced this job last week, it's going to take them a few weeks to get that into their schedule to even get in there and do the work. I have no idea how much mold we're talking about. I've dealt with mold before. It doesn't scare me. Not much does when it comes to stuff like that. But we're at the point now where I tried to light a fire under everybody's ass on Friday to get this to close this week without me doing anything, because I mean, I would have done really well selling the property at the price that we've got it under contract for. I don't know a dime on the property. If I didn't have to go down there or have anything to do with it, it would have been good to sell it the way it was going. But I know now that that's not going to happen. And as of the end of last week, the realtor was telling me that if we wanted to get this to close, I had to pay to have this mold removed. And I've already said I ain't going to do it. I told this realtor from the start, if I do anything to this property, if I have to put any money into it, I'm going to want to come down there and I'm going to want to look at it, and I'm a pretty handy guy and I like to remodel stuff, and if I see when I come and take a look-see that I want to remodel the place, then that's probably what I'm going to do, and the price is going to go way up and it's going to be a different scenario. I've done everything I've done so far, making it as clear as I could to everyone involved that this pricing that we're under contract for, it's as is. So I'm in the truck. I've loaded up some tools and a ladder, and I'm headed to Charlottesville, Virginia, and I'm going to go take a look at this house. And I haven't stepped foot on this property that I've owned for 26 years. I haven't stepped foot on this property for the last 25 years. So there'll be a lot of memories there. When I moved into that house in the summer of '96, boy, that was a different time, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of interesting feelings from a lot of interesting memories, from that time. I lived in the house for several months there before I ended up getting it rented out late '96. There's probably going to be, I'm assuming, I've thought of a few things that I'd completely forgot about, and there's probably going to be a whole lot more of that. So anyway, I'm in the 250 eastbound and down. Just went through Durban, and now going through a little place called Bartow, and it reminds me and my buddy used to rent a place here when we were iron workers working on the Green Bank telescope. Check this out. That house right there with the open sign, that's where me and my buddy rented there. We rented that house and lived there whenever we were iron workers working on the Green Bank telescope up here. I don't know if you know what the Green Bank telescope is, It's the largest fully steerable radio telescope in the world. It's a massive iron structure, 478 feet to the top of it. If you want any more information on that, it ain't hard to look up. But me and my buddy worked on the construction of the Green Bank telescope, and I worked on it for about a year and a half at the very end. And we lived here. We rented a place here in Bartow, and we worked on that telescope all day, and then we'd lift weights all evening. We had a set of weights. I remember something else that was funny. We had so much weights in our weight set that one time I noticed the bathroom in that place was in the basement, and I went down in the basement one time to piss real quick whenever Mark was squatting. I don't remember how much he had on that weight bar when he was doing back squats, but I noticed how much the floor moved when he done them squats, and I was afraid one of us was gonna go through the floor in that house. So I ended up making a column. I made a steel column, an extra column at work the next day, and took and put under that house, and we left that steel column there. I don't know what the guy that owned the place, whatever, thought of it, you know, when he got in there and seen we added a column. But I know he knew we lifted weights in there. We lifted weights all evening. But that was just something I remembered. Keep on keeping on. I just stopped here, thought of something else. Back in 97, whenever I decided I was moving back to West Virginia, me and my buddy Jeremy Gandy brought my old big blue Ford. I had an 81 F-250. We brought it drove it from Buckhannon to Charlottesville, Virginia to pick up some more of my stuff. And we did that on New Year's Eve. Left out on New Year's Eve, and when we got just over the West Virginia line into Virginia, we had a wheel bearing that was making a bunch of noise. And by the time we got right here, right in this area, the drinker side front wheel bearing on that truck locked completely up and skidded us to a halt. Right there is where I forced it into the gravel. And I had a toolbox with me. When we used to drive junk, I mean, I still do to this day, even though I've got nicer vehicles. But when we used to drive junk, you know, you didn't go nowhere without your toolbox. And I jacked it up, pulled the wheel off of it right there, and got in there to that wheel bearing, had a race stuck on the spindle. I was working on it with a chisel, and Jeremy walked down that road to that house right there, and there's a farmer come out and put him in the vehicle, and they come up here just about the time that I had busted that stuck race off the spindle with a chisel, and he said, well, your buddy said you needed a bearing, I can take you to the parts store. Well, we run down the road here to this parts store just as they were closing, and walked in there and got a wheel bearing for that truck and a tub of grease, and come back here, and I packed them wheel bearings and repacked that, and on our way we went, you know, on towards Charlottesville, heading to go pick up, you know, stuff that I had left at this house that we're going to now. So I just remembered breaking down right there, and that good old boy that lived there, whoever that farmer was, he helped us out. All right, I'm back on the road. Well, we made it here to this little house. This nice little walkway to the front, it wasn't here when I lived here. This was just yard up to right here. Now that was here, and I had a board right there, and I used to ride my motorcycle right up into the front door here. Never even thought about that till I come down in here. Central air works great in here. Such a tiny little place. Yeah, I used to park my Harley right there. I rode her right through the door and parked her right there. I had a desk right here where I sat and paid my bills on Sunday. There's a washer and dryer in the basement of this place now, but there was no washer and dryer at that time. When I lived here, I did my laundry at the laundromat. I used to take my laundry, I'd put my laundry in the saddlebags of my motorcycle, and I'd go to the laundromat and I'd do the laundry at the laundromat. I'd put my clothes in the wash, and then I'd go to the bar beside the laundromat and sit and drink till it was time to go back and put them in the dryer. And then I'd go back to the bar and drink while they was in the dryer. I crashed that motorcycle one time coming back from Katie's Country Club. I used to party at Katie's Country Club in Charlottesville here. I crashed that motorcycle. My bed was right here, and I drank a lot then, and I crashed that motorcycle, and I came back here and I got in bed, and I woke up in the morning, and my bed sheet was so stuck to me that I couldn't pull the bed sheet off. And in that very bathtub, that bathtub's never been changed. This bathroom's in terrible shape now. It wasn't near this bad when I lived here. But I laid in that bathtub right there full of water with that sheet for an entire day, peeling that sheet off of the road rash that I had, because I had road rash. I crashed that motorcycle and I had road rash from my ankle to my ear on the right side. And I came home drunk, laid down in that bed, bled through that bed sheet, woke up with a bed sheet stuck to me, and I had to lay in that bathtub all day, peeling just a 1/16 of an inch at a time till I got that bed sheet off of me. I haven't thought about that for a long time. So it's a 2-bedroom house. And another thing I hadn't thought about for a while, when I lived here, me and some of my buddies, just before I rented this place late in '96, I was looking for somewhere to store my stuff. And me and a couple of my buddies guys I work with realized there was this attic thing up here. And what I did was, I got up there in that attic thing and I looked, and I realized that you could stand up there. So what we did, even though a 4x8 sheet of plywood won't fit through that hole, we cut OSB board down small enough that we could get it through that hole, and nailed that sheeting in up there, and we actually made a place up there where you could walk around, and I was able to store a bunch of my belongings in there. And I stored my stuff in there because I was welding at a place where I actually moved in and lived at the welding shop where I worked, and we did some 24-hour call stuff and things like that. And I rented this place out, rented it to a couple of old ladies, and had all my stuff stored up there. And at some point, somebody got into my stuff up there. I know it wasn't either one of them two old ladies, but somebody got into that stuff. And a bunch of my stuff got stolen. A lot of my stuff from when I was young. My very first .22 rifle, my compound bow, my recurve bow, a lot of arrow making stuff, fletching stuff, reloading equipment. All that stuff got stolen from up there. And when I stored it up there and rented this place, I put replacement cost insurance on it. I found out later replacement cost is a ripoff. Insurance period is a ripoff. But actually, pretty neat coming down here checking this out. Little 2-bedroom. Tiny little place. Paid $37,850 for this place in the summer of '96. Alright, I got a few other things I'm going to check out and we'll go from there. So I got this board out where I'd stored my stuff all those years ago, and obviously people have been through it. What's been stolen. This is where me and Gandy came that time to get my stuff, and that was when we realized that somebody had stole that stuff. But a lot of this that's up here, this stuff that's up here is actually, you know, a lot of it's mine. Cowboy boots, Red Wings, old Miracle paint from the Dollar General store in Buchanan. That's still got paint in it. Right here's the snakeskin boots. You look at my senior picture from my senior high school picture from 1992. I'm wearing them boots right there. And I look in this box right here. Picture of Travis Myers. That's me and Jason Littler and Louis Caputo. Jason's birthday, September 16th, 81. And this picture right here I found. Jason Littler and Larry Littler are in the back. Jeremy Gandy's the one in the black shirt stepping sideways right there. The two boys to the right are from Vermont. Those would be my stepdad's nephews, I think. Would that be the right term? Yes. And the guy there that looks like Tarzan, that's Delmas, my buddy Andy Lipscomb, that committed suicide about 9 or 10 years ago. That's at the hunting camp up in PA, Wallerville Hunt Club on the dike of the pond. Delmas standing there, he's got that snake in his hand. Lansky sharpening set. Old deer horn. There's a box full of clothes right there. It's hot up here, but I'm going to have to look through some of this stuff. There's a note. I remember this notebook. I was making notes. Know it. Know it. I wrote know it. What did I want to know? Stuff about engines. Stages of a 4-stroke. Ford engines. 351. Windsor. Modified. Cleveland. 400. Notes from when I was a kid, man. old drinking water, or water, old cooler I used to carry around to work. I had that thing forever, drinking water. And there's a Chilton manual for a Ford Ranger over there. That box right there says fermenter and brewing tools. And that box right there is full of stuff for doing body work, sandpaper and stuff. Stuff I haven't laid my eyes on in 25 years. So I left the house and I drove by Quality Welding where I used to work. Drove by where CNC Ornamental Iron used to be. And I came here to this Bel Air Market and stopped. I used to come to this Bel Air Market and get rotisserie chickens on Sunday morning when I had a hangover, and I'd back over there in that parking lot with my... I'd back over there in that parking lot with my 81 F-250, and after I'd got my rotisserie chicken in there, I'd buy a newspaper, and I'd back that truck over there and I'd throw that newspaper down on the seat, and I'd throw that rotisserie chicken down there on that newspaper, and I'd sit there and I'd eat a rotisserie chicken in the morning off the truck seat, watching cars go by with a hangover. That was my hangover fix. Well, I was going to get a rotisserie chicken in there a little bit ago. They don't have any today. It being Sunday, holiday weekend, I don't know, they don't have any. So I got gas there, and I realized when I got gas at the market when I was leaving that I was blocking other traffic. So as soon as I got my truck filled up with gas, oh, I didn't put my gas cap back on. As soon as I got my truck filled up with gas, I said, man, I better get out of the way. I was in such a hurry I didn't even put my gas cap back on. So I pulled out of there and I wanted to change my socks. So I come up here and I noticed there's a big parking lot here at this Bel Air place. And I pulled in here, and wouldn't you know it, here is something. I didn't mean to come to here, but here's something where this is a job I did when I worked for Quality Welding. I built these handrails, and we brought them up here. Me and a guy named Frogman installed these handrails, and I noticed they've been raised. So something, maybe the code changed or something, but you can see where the posts have been spliced on. Pretty wild that I would pull in right at a place where I'd done a job, and it's just so many things that I've worked on. You know, I thought one time, it's like, if everything I ever welded just magically all at one moment came unwelded, you know, the structures that would collapse and the machines that would fall apart in motion, and trailers and trucks and equipment and things would just fly apart at a drastic scale. I mean, there would be carnage if everything that I welded since 1991 just immediately became unwelded. I'm old. But I ain't done. Anyway, look, I gotta get back over the mountains. I'm not gonna stay down here tonight. I took a look at the house. I got some thinking to do on that. I'm gonna get my ass back over the mountain later. So I'm headed back over the mountains. I just went through Stanton. Stanton's the last major Virginia town you'd go through before you head up over the mountains. And it reminded me of that time me and Gandy went down on New Year's Eve to get my stuff, and we were coming back, and it was late at night. I'm not sure exactly how close it was to the new year at that point, but it was late at night. We come through Stanton, like I just did, in that big blue Ford, and we got pulled over. And I hate to even say this because I don't really condone this behavior any longer, but back in the day, when we come up over the mountains to make this trip, we had a bottle of Crown Royal, a cooler full of beer, and about a quarter ounce of pot. And there wasn't much of any of that left on the trip back. And we got pulled over, and it's like I thought I was going to jail for driving drunk. But just like, be cool, man, be cool. That's what you always did when you was getting pulled over, driving and drinking and partying like we was doing. It was always like, just be cool, man, be cool. So we got pulled over, and we were speeding. The officer said we were speeding, and he asked us where we were coming from, where we were going, like always. And I told him I was originally from West Virginia. I've been living in Virginia. I'm moving back home to West Virginia, and we just made a run to Charlottesville to pick up the last of my belongings to move back home for good. Anyway, the guy let us go. I couldn't believe it. I know I couldn't have passed the breathalyzer. The guy let us go. Anyway, he let us go. So we took off up over the mountains in the old big blue Ford. We're heading home. We're heading home. So I didn't go very far after we got pulled over, and I realized we were just about out of gas. And late at night like that through the mountains, you ain't gonna make it. You ain't gonna find nowhere to get gas, especially then. None of these little towns going through the mountains are gonna sell you gas in the middle of the night, especially it's New Year's Eve. So I knew I had to go back to Stanton. And I didn't know Stanton that well. I knew my way through there, but sure enough, I had to turn around. I turned around, you know what I did? I pulled in there where that cop was. Pulled into that cop where he was clocking people right there for speeding. I pulled in there and I said, man, can you tell me where the closest gas station is? I'm running on fumes. I ain't gonna make it home. This cop pulled out a map and showed me where I need to go, the fastest route to get gas in that truck to get home. And we went and got gas. Over the mountains we went. Unreal as shit you remember, man. I just got into West Virginia, and I remembered another thing about that trip me and Gandy took. There on New Year's Eve, 96, New Year's Day, 97. It was probably New Year's Day by the time this shit happened. But we come right, as soon as we got into West Virginia and we saw the Welcome to West Virginia sign, I pulled over. I don't know, we were partying. We were partying because we were back in West Virginia. But I saw the Welcome to West Virginia sign, and I pulled over. And we were hooting and hollering that we were back in West Virginia. And it was right here. The sign's not there now. I think that sign up there says Welcome to West Virginia, that white one. I'm pretty sure. But there was a great big Welcome to West Virginia sign right here at this big area back then. Anyways, we pulled off and we were hooping and hollering, and we got out of the truck and was up on top of the cab. I don't remember what all kind of craziness there was there. But somewhere in this area right here, there we was with that truck, and we decided we was ready to go, and we was going on, heading on home that way. And I started spinning my wheels. I remember in here, I was spinning, couldn't go. It was swampy, it was nasty. Well, I don't know if I told you this yet about the Big Blue Ford, but it had a 3-inch body lift and a 4-inch suspension lift, and the tires on that truck were 15/38s, groundhogs, mudders. And when I started spinning, I told Gandy, man, we're gonna have to lock them in. Well, back in them days, we didn't have all these automatic hubs and shit like we got now. When you and your buddy was ready to get in 4-wheel drive, you said, hey man, let's lock them in, and you get out on your side and you manually lock your hub in, and he got out on his side and he locked his hub in, and then you could pull your lever down in the floor and you'd be in 4-wheel drive. That's how it used to be. So I said, Gandy, we're gonna have to lock them in. So we got out, locked the hubs in, got back in the truck. I pulled the lever, put her in 4 high, and I knew as soon as I hit the throttle, we weren't in 4-wheel drive. And I knew I had that transfer case in 4-wheel drive. And I think I give Gandy hell. I said, man, you sure you got that hub locked in? You drunk or what? And he said, I think I locked it in, but it didn't feel right. And at that point, I think we realized that when we burned up that wheel bearing on the way in, we smoked that hub. Well, when you got an open differential front end and you got one hub that won't lock, you ain't got no 4-wheel drive. You just same as 2-wheel drive. You just well pull that transfer case back in 2 high, because that's all you got. So that's all we had. A 2-wheel drive with a set of 15/38 groundhog mudders, a 400 small block with an Edelbrock aluminum intake, 4-barrel carburetor and a cam in it. Middle of the night, New Year's Day probably by now. And I'll tell you what I done. I flat bored on that truck until we brought her up out of there. And I re-excavated some ground right here, I guarantee you. I'd say they probably had to bring in some equipment to get it this nice, because I tore up some stuff. I don't know how much you know about mudding, but back in the day when we was into the mudding, you know, that's what it was all about. You got you a whole bunch of traction. You couldn't get traction unless you had the lift, because you had to get the big tires. So you put on the lift, you put on the big tires, then you didn't have enough power. So you soup up the motor and you get you enough power. Usually that's when you'd start breaking axle joints and snapping axles and twisting drive shafts and shit like that. But yeah, I remember that now, man. I re-excavated this ground. Wheel speed, that's how you get out. You gotta spin them mud tires so fast that the centrifugal force throws the mud out of the tire as it comes back around and grabs another big bite of earth, and that gives you traction that propels you forward. And then once again, as the tire comes around, it cleans that cleaning action of that mud tire, slings it out by force with the wheel speed, and gets another bite, and you go. That was nuts, man. Wonder if Gandy remembers that. Anyway, I gotta get home. So, I'm gonna quit fooling around here and get back in the truck. It's kind of cool. I'm talking about my old F-250, and I'm driving my new F-250. I just, man, I tell you, I love these trucks. All right, here we go. I just remembered another one from there at the time whenever me and Mark was working at Green Bank. We was coming back from there one time, and we stopped at that little store right there. We stopped at that little store, and I stayed in the car. I didn't need nothing. Mark was driving. We were in his Nissan. He had a Nissan 4-door, I can't remember what you call them cars, but it was a nice car. I was riding with him, and he stopped at the store to get a can of snuff or something. And we'd been rolling and smoking doobies all the way from Green Bank, so the car and both of us smelled like a skunk's ass. And he went in the store, he come out of the store, I waited in the car, and when he got in the driver's seat and sat down, he was looking forward with a blank look on his face. And he said, "What the fuck, man? Do I got a booger sticking out of my nose or what?" I looked over at him and I said, "No, you ain't got no booger sticking out of your nose. Why?" He said, "Everybody in that fucking store was looking at me like I was some kind of weirdo." Well, he didn't realize it, but he had a joint rolled up about the size of your pinky finger, and he had it stuck behind his ear. And he walked in there with that joint behind his ear, smelling like a skunk's ass from smoking all them doobies. And he forgot that joint was behind his ear. So everybody in the store was looking at him weird. I said, "No, Mark, you ain't got no booger sticking out of your nose. But you got a great big doobie rolled up, stuck behind your ear, and you smell like a skunk's asshole from smoking all that weed." Oh, shit. I wonder if he remembers that. Red Rock Road, next right. That was a pretty long day rolling down there and coming back. Pretty cool though. Thought of a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't have thought of if I didn't have all them things to jog my memory. And it would kind of be neat to go down there, spend some more time around Charlottesville. I think it would be neat to be cool to look around some more. So many things that I worked on down there, you know, that I forgot about. I'm sure it would take a while just running around to find all the different things. And you'd never find them all, but I know, man, in 3 or 4 years I was down there, 3.5 years, whatever it was. There's a lot of stuff down there I built and plumb forgot about, you know. But back at the shop now. So that's it for that deal. Later. Watch just how I do the fade out. Good night.